Jujutsu Kaisen has 4 chapters remaining at the time I am writing this, and by the time this video is released, there will be a 1-week break before the manga goes into its final stretch of chapters, the final 3 chapters of the entire story, with the final chapter itself being released on the 29th of September, concluding with 271 chapters in total, 6.5 years of serialization in Shonen Jump, an anime airing across almost 4 years, 2 seasons and counting, and a prequel movie adapted from a light novel. So just like with My Hero Academia, let's just talk, not review and critique. We don't do revisionism here. You know, when any major piece of media comes to its conclusion, it's common practice for views on that story to be changed. I'm assuming that since it's over, the full picture is revealed, so there are no more possibilities of where the story can go. But we don't do that here. Jujutsu Kaisen, obviously being a huge name in the West, especially amongst the more modern audience, huge popularity always leaves room for more critics, but that's not the point of this video. Let's just talk about it before it's all said and done. The second half of 2020, when the first season of the anime was airing, coming right off of the first COVID lockdown and the summer holidays being a 6-week break from school across the second half of July and all of August. The US equivalent would be the summer vacation, summer break. Is pretty much the same thing. I don't know why I needed to clarify that, but there you go. Anyway, the time that it did air was through the second lockdown in the UK, which lasted for about a month through the majority of November and very early December. But back to the first lockdown and holidays, from March to the end of August, 6 months stuck indoors. That's where I had an anime awakening of sorts, where I watched all of Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach and One Piece during that time. Not including fillers, except for Dragon Ball, because I didn't know what the concept of fillers was yet. And after such an undertaking, one needs a break, and that's what I did. I didn't watch any new anime for a few months. I think I did read Berserk if I remember correctly, but that's it. And to that second lockdown, I'm hearing about Jujutsu Kaisen for the first time. I don't start watching it here since I still am a bit burnt out, but I can label that general point in time, that month, as the first time that Jujutsu Kaisen crossed my path. And a couple of weeks later come the winter holidays or the Christmas holidays, a 2-week break from school or from college now, since I've now started college by this point, not university. I think the UK version of college is equivalent to the final years of high school in the US. Anyway, it's during these holidays where I start watching Jujutsu Kaisen for the first time, and it was really good. I remember liking Nanami's character a lot, specifically his voice of course is a one thing, but the fact that this man is fighting in a suit and tie I thought was so cool. It's kind of weird really, since it's only been like 3.5 years since the first season came out, so I don't feel nostalgic in the same way as My Hero Academia, which I started watching like 8 years ago. But on the plus side, that means that JJK is way more fresh in my mind currently. Like, I remember the whole situation with Junpei and what happened with him really throwing me for a loop, because when he was getting closer with Yuji and meeting his mother and everything, I was thinking he would become one of the crew, you know, one of the squad, but then there's all that happened to him after the fact. I can't not mention Gojo Satoru here as well, the man himself. He was a weird case for me as well at the start, because Gojo's the strongest, but he's still quite young. When I think of the strongest, I'm thinking of Whitebeard, I'm thinking of Yamamoto, I'm thinking of Isaac Netero. All of these old guys who have a ton of experience, everyone respects them. The badass old guy, my favorite anime archetype. And then you've got Gojo, who I don't know how old he is, but I'm guessing he's no older than 30 at the absolute most. He's also way more carefree than any of these old guys, and even though people do respect him, he's got people on his own side, the higher ups, who don't like him because they can't control him. When we met the principal of the Kyoto school, I thought, yeah, this guy is going to be really powerful. One of the strongest, and then he pulls out a guitar. Not that I didn't like it or there's something wrong with that, but I saw a wrinkled old man in a position of power, and I was expecting a character like Yamamoto, not a rock star. And back to Gojo, he talked the talk and walked the walk, so that was enough for me. I was sold. Usually if I find an anime enjoyable enough, I will switch to the manga as soon as the season of that anime is done airing, before any announcement for a next season is made or something like that. For example, after watching Bleach, I didn't read the manga because the announcement had already been made that the anime would be coming back for the final arc, so I decided to wait for that. But for JJK, the anime was so good that I thought I don't want to switch to the manga because the quality of the anime is so high and a second season was inevitable. And 2 years later, that season 2 did begin airing, and let me tell you, it's genuinely insane how the animation staff were able to up their game and make it look even better than the first season. There was a lot of controversy though as well regarding animators' pay and working hours, so with that amount of stress and pressure that they were under, it's an even bigger testament to their capabilities that they still were able to do what they did. And then I think it was the Blu-ray release where it looked even better. I mean, the animation always gets a ton of attention, but the animators themselves deserve way more praise for what they did. It was also during season 2 that a friend of mine was trying to convince me to read and catch up to the manga, which I agreed to do after this season was done airing, and he was hyping it up like crazy. Each time I saw him, he talked about the latest episode and he would remind me as if I would have forgotten. Read the manga when this season is done. So I'm thinking, what's going on in the manga that's got him so excited, where he's saying the fights in this season 2, the Shibuya arc, are nothing. I didn't get spoiled luckily. Like I said, I wasn't really part of the community, so I was far away from spoilers, but I'm sitting there watching Sukuna make easy work of Jogo, then destroying Mahoraga in one of the most insanely animated fights I've seen. My best guess was that since Gojo was sealed in the anime, then surely stuff's happening with him in the manga. Because realistically, what other character in this story is gonna get this sort of reaction out of people? That was my train of thought. And lastly, on the anime side of things, Itadori being hunted by everyone was such a good cliffhanger to leave off at, in my opinion. And then I switched to the manga, where I had just as much fun as I did with the anime. It was great. I binge read it. I have review videos on each arc if you're interested, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, and I will skip to the part that my friend had been hyping for the past like 3 months or so. Gojo versus Sukuna. Oh man, I was not ready for this. The Gojo unsealed part I was expecting, but I thought it would be like a last second save, unexpected kind of thing, but not him returning and then setting a date and time to fight Sukuna as the first thing that he does. I was able to read it all in one sitting since the fight was already over when I was catching up to the manga, and I also don't know everything there is to know about the power system. Like, when I saw Hikari's ability explained in the culling games, I just clocked out. So that's to say that the pure hype and adrenaline alone for this fight was enough to carry me through it. Gojo losing and dying was really the only possible outcome from my point of view, since Sukuna is the big bad. He can't lose to anyone that isn't Yuji. Though that didn't make the loss any easier, because imagine if Gojo had actually won that fight. Aside from the story effectively being done, you know how insane Gojo would have looked. He would have been untouchable. And then I caught up with chapter 248, which it really isn't that long ago. That's only 20 chapters ago at this point. It's the chapter where Yuta and Rika arrive to fight Sukuna, and the cliffhanger is something along the lines of the King of Curses versus the Queen of Curses. So that's when I started to get involved with the JJK community once I was caught up. In the My Hero Academia video for its ending, I made a point to mention how its community, or a very small dark side of the community, had tarnished its legacy, and with Jujutsu Kaisen I don't think its fanbase reached that level of whatever you would call those depths. In the mainstream at least, because realistically every fan base has those kinds of terrible people in it. But once I did catch up and did interact with the community, I was hearing a lot about how a part of the fanbase went crazy over Gojo losing, and I guess I still haven't been around for that much more time since then, so I can't really speak on the fanbase, and I would rather not go down that rabbit hole. And as for the bigger picture, there's Dragon Ball and its unmatched influence on the whole anime and manga sphere. Then you have the big three in the early 2000s. In the modern day, or more like 2010 and after, there's Attack on Titan first, then My Hero Academia, then Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen. Just looking at its manga sales alone, it didn't hit the insane heights that Demon Slayer did that one year, but its yearly sales were also pretty much unheard of, and it's still among the top selling to this day. Because one thing that Jujutsu Kaisen has over Demon Slayer definitively is that Jujutsu Kaisen's popularity came with the anime while the manga was in full swing, whereas Demon Slayer's popularity came as the manga was ending, so the attention that the anime received could flow over to the manga and keep it going strong, if that makes sense. And I said this about My Hero, how there's the concept of the new gen big three floating about, which I'm not a fan of, but it is there. JJK is another manga that's always in those conversations, so although it's kind of an unofficial metric, that is a testament to its own popularity, and now with the manga ending, I guess we will see where it goes in the future. Like everything else that has ever been, ever, Jujutsu Kaisen is not perfect and there are critiques to be made, but like I said, this isn't that kind of video. 4 chapters remaining just does not seem like enough in my eyes. I feel like every manga needs an extended epilogue arc to really tie everything up. But if this is what Gege Akutami wants to do, then who am I to say that they can't? I may disagree with it, but it's their story, not mine. The manga is ending, but I will still watch each new season of the anime as it comes out, as well as any movies that could potentially come out in the future. If you're an anime fan, then you 100% know the name Jujutsu Kaisen, and there is good reason for it, whether it's the characters, the dark and nature of the story, the power system, or even simply just the anime's animation quality. It's not done yet, there's still a bit to go before the book is finally closed, but when it does end, for its impact, for its story, and for how much I have enjoyed it, I salute Jujutsu Kaisen.